Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday morning to one and all. This is O'Connor and Company, and I'm not Larry O'Connor. I'm Andrew Langer, sitting in for him alongside Julie Gunlock. It is 7:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. Got a great show. More to come here. We got Steve Knotts of the Fairfax County GOP chairman joining us later on in this hour. The next hour, we're going to talk about the Commanders game yesterday with Trevor Maddich. But joining us right now, Joe diGenova. He joins us every Monday morning. He's a legal analyst and former U.S. attorney to the District of Columbia. And I got to start here with this press conference on Thursday, Joe. There's no possible way that the president was well aware of what Hunter Biden's legal team was going to do, right? I mean, there's no possible way he was unaware.
I would say that's probably a very good assumption, given the degree of love that the president has for his son. He loved him so much that he talks to him all the time, and I'm sure knew exactly what was going to happen. And indeed, the White House conceded that the president was aware of his son's plans.
Okay, so if it can be demonstrated that the president was actively undermining this investigation, this impeachment investigation, and was essentially encouraging his son or involved in his son's defiance of this legitimately issued congressional subpoena, is that not in and of itself an impeachable offense, Joe diGenova?
Oh, absolutely. It is. He conspired with his son to obstruct a congressional investigation by defying a lawfully issued subpoena. That could be Article 10 or 20 in the impeachment, along with Shokin, the firing of Shokin, leaving the border open and failure to execute the laws. But yes, that's definitely an impeachable offense if the president conspired with his son.
Are you amazed, as the rest of us are, that it's one thing to defy the subpoena. It's another thing entirely to have a Democrat congressionally sponsored press conference outside of the Senate when you're supposed to be testifying before the Congress?
Well, the word brazen actually defines the Biden family. They are brazen about everything they do because they're getting a pass from the mainstream media, so they have complete cover for everything that they're doing. What Swalwell did could be the subject of internal discipline by the House. And in fact, in the case of Swalwell, here's the question you always ask. This is what my wife, Victoria, always says. What would Nancy do if this happened to her? And the answer is she would find out a way to investigate Swalwell by the Ethics Committee or some other committee that she decided was appropriate and have discipline imposed upon him. The House should do that to Swalwell. This was an absolute attack on the authority under Article 1 of the House of Representatives, and he should be punished for it. There just isn't any question. Now, of course, the House is out of town. We don't hear anybody talking about anything, and so we'll see what they do. I'll see if I continue to be as unimpressed with the Republicans in the House as I have been for a very long time.
Joe, this weekend, Jen Psaki was on one of the Sunday morning show, and I thought it was so interesting that she said Hunter Biden should stop talking, but then she said, in public. Doesn't that say a lot about Washington itself? That everything that Hunter Biden has done it's okay. It's just that he's being too public about it, and that's what really bothers sort of these elitist Democrat political figures.
Well, Jen Psaki is just the worst human being in the world in terms of public relations, and she is a total hack. She lies with ease. It's just remarkable. Sometimes she tells the truth like this. I'm sure that some people in the White House and a lot of people in the Democratic Party wish that Hunter Biden had not done what he did and simply taken the Fifth Amendment. This was in essence the taking of the Fifth when he didn't show up. The problem is, in order to take the Fifth, you have to show up and actually do it.
Right.
And you have to mouth those words. Jen Psaki is, she's kind of an embarrassment to the profession of journalism, but, journalism doesn't exist anymore. So maybe there's nothing to be embarrassed about. But she's part of the Democratic machine, which functions very effectively, though, to perpetrate lies. They do a very, very good job of lying.
We're talking with Joe diGenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, legal analyst now. And Joe, I've been positing this theory. This is all of this avoidance by Hunter Biden, what he did on Thursday with this press conference. It is all about avoiding one very simple question and the optics of pleading the fifth in terms of not answering this question. It is all about not answering the question, Hunter Biden, who's the big guy? You talk about this big guy, you'll set aside 10% for the big guy. There's no good outcome for this, right? Because he can't answer the question.
Yes.
And if he takes the fifth on the question, that also says something, right? But that's what it's all about. That's the central question in all of this, isn't it?
That is correct. And he's going to continue to defy any attempts to get him to come in. He will, if they issue another subpoena and, quote unquote, give him another chance, which they should not do. He's had his chance. He's represented by counsel. He defied them publicly wasn't really a news conference because he didn't take any questions.
Right.
It was just a press statement availability. On that Senate side of the Capitol, so that the House Sergeant at Arms couldn't come out and drag him inside. The bottom line is this is a plan. This is all part of a plan. They don't want to take the fifth. They don't want to be seen in public taking the fifth. They don't want to take the deposition. Now, all he has to do is say, I'm taking the fifth. That's all he has to do, but he doesn't want to do that. This is a very carefully executed plan to avoid giving any testimony whatsoever. And by the way, the House should hold him in contempt. It should be referred to Merrick Garland.
Right.
And Merrick Garland should be put in the very uncomfortable position of having to make this decision. What he would do, I don't know. It depends upon how far along Merrick Garland is in realizing how much he has sullied his reputation as a former judge and how much he has embarrassed himself in executing the role of Attorney General. But there's no doubt they have to hold him in contempt. And by the way, one thing for me, appearances matter. This is a very grave set of circumstances involving impeachment. I want Jim Jordan to stop appearing in public in shirt sleeves. I want him to put a jacket on, look like a member of Congress, and stop looking like a salesperson on the floor of a department store.
Wow. Joe, listen, I was going to ask you this. So you're going to lay odds on whether or not Hunter Biden gets arrested for contempt of Congress? Would you say 1 in 100 chance it gets arrested, 1 in 1,000? What are your thoughts here?
Well, he will not be arrested. He will be allowed to surrender, unlike Republicans. But that assumes that Merrick Garland is going to get a referral from the House, which I assume they will do upon their return, and then issue a surrender order. We'll see. Who knows? I mean, it depends upon whether Merrick Garland has reached his limits.
And finally, let me ask you this, because there's a story that popped up. We're now just learning that back in the late 90s, James Biden was part of a probe of $100,000. Well, part of a probe of the bribing of members of Congress by a Mississippi lawyer who paid James Biden's consulting firm $100,000. Do you remember hearing about this? I mean, where does this fit into the Biden money making operation?
This is the lexicon of grifterism that engulfs the Biden family. There's been some fascinating big stories about Sarah Biden written in the last couple of weeks, and people should just Google and go online and read about her. There have been stories about them failure to pay their mortgages, defaults on loans. Fascinating history, completely consistent with the image you have of the Bidens as being grifters. Nothing about this is surprising. I did hear about it. You forget I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware.
That's right.
Joe Biden, when he was a young man, we were in different high schools together, private schools for boys. We both attended different ones. He is, and the family always was, they were known then as being people who didn't pay their bills. They didn't pay people who came to cut the lawn. They didn't pay people who paved the driveway. They didn't pay the plumber. The Bidens were known for being grifters, and they haven't changed one bit. And isn't it nice to see an openly real grifter in the White House rather than a fake grifter?
It's refreshing. Joe, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Joe.
You bet. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. That's right. That was Joe diGenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. We'll continue, but
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL. More than just politics, because laughter is the best medicine. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
yes, we have critter news. But as we get to this, let me ask you a question, Julie Gunlock. Are you a live tree or fake tree person?
Sadly, and I mean this, I am a fake tree person because my husband is allergic to the sap in the tree.
Oh no!
Yes.
Wow. Okay, that you have an excuse. I don't have an excuse.
So I always say that though because I feel like guilty not getting a real tree. So I have to.
I gave up on that guilt a number of years ago. We got a fake tree, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago.
It is
we've gone
easier.
down that road. It is much, much easier, especially the ones that have that internal lighting. I do miss a live tree, except for the possibility of critters being in the trees. This out of the New York Post. A woman finds an opossum hiding in her Christmas tree after it sneezes. Don't know how it got in there. Holding up my hands in that shrug. This is just crazy. Brett Ingram, a marketing manager based in Dallas-Fort Worth, says he was finishing up some work at home when she heard a soft sneeze. I kept wondering, but I'm sorry.
Cute.
It's cute. I mean, the possums can be really, really creepy when you corner them because they've got that.
Yeah.
Here, let's hear a clip from the story on this. Thank you very much about this.
I am literally freaking out right now. I have no idea how this possum got in my house and up into my tree. And I'm trying to get him out, but it will not let me. And I just don't know what to do. I don't know how I got in here. I don't leave my doors open. Somebody help.
Guess what?
I'm
you
down
now
crouched
have
behind my couch. I look
Guess what?
over
You
to
now
the
have a
left and
possum as a pet. You're now the proud owner of one baby sneezing possum. By the way, listen, this is big stuff because most folks pay extra for the sneezing possums. Otherwise, you get the sleeping possums. So now you're up. But by the way, isn't it the possums are good for getting rid of mosquitoes, right? They eat mosquitoes.
Who knows? But look, it's terrifying. But I will say, and I think it's important for our listeners that they know that she put gloves on, and she managed to, as she says, pry his little fingers off the branches and let him go. So that's good.
Boo. That's a very Grinchy end to the story. All this possum wanted was a nice meal, maybe a cup of eggnog, and, climbed into this poor lady's tree. So she thinks it somehow came into the house. She doesn't think that the possum came with the tree.
Oh, boy.
Right?
That poor possum. He was looking for anything natural, and he found that tree. That's a fake tree, though.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it is. Something you look at.
That is a
you
fake
look at the
tree.
picture here.
It's because it's one of those trees that has the fake snow on it.
Fake snow. All right. Well, that's just
so
it.
obviously it didn't come in with a tree.
I thought he came in with the tree. She must have left it in. That's interesting. Or someone's letting possums into her house at night. So, folks, listen. This is the handy tip of the day from those of us at O'Connor and Company headquarters here at WMAL. Regardless of whether or not you have a real tree or a fake tree, like those of us do who have the fake trees, check your tree for possums regularly. And if you hear strange sneezing in the middle of the night, don't panic. It might just be a possum. We've got so much more to get to right now. It's 7:22 here on
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, welcome. Hey, everybody. Good morning. So glad you could join us today. I'm Andrew Langer, in for Larry O'Connor here on O'Connor and Company, sitting alongside the talented Julie Gunlock. Hello, Julie.
Good morning.
Good morning. Listen, it is 7:37 here on News Talk 105.9. We are making sense of the news. Yes, it is Monday morning. It is December 18th. You have 1 week, less than a week until Christmas. So if you haven't done anything, kick it into high gear. We're going to be joined in the next hour by Trevor Matich, who analyzes the Washington Commanders to talk about yesterday's game. But joining us right now to continue to discuss this just crazy story out of Fairfax County. It continues to get nutty. Steve Knotts is joining us. He's the chairman of the Fairfax County Republican Club. Steve, so glad you could join us today. Let's talk about what happened with the school board getting sworn in last week. Some folks use Bibles. Some folks don't use anything at all. Other folks use what is essentially porn. What's going on in Fairfax County with the school board?
I have no idea what's up with these guys because it just goes farther and farther down the hole. It's amazing to me that, something as traditional and as symbolic of our commitment to a job or to an ideal is now undermined by things like this. And it's not just Carl Fritz. He's where it started, and that's what got the story going. But, Kyle McDaniel and several of the others were bringing in their personal ideas about what is a sacred text to be sworn in on, and those sacred texts end up being, pedophilia and pornography and things that the general public is just not for, and it's a slap in the face to people of faith all over the area. I just don't know what it's going to take to get through to these guys.
Steve, this happened right after a student died at Justice High School, and the principal, I think the next day, did sort of a selfie pose, saying we'll get through this, in a totally inappropriate social media post. You got some serious problems in Fairfax County, and you got Carl Frisch, and again, that principal doing this kind of thing, wasting people's time, and again, not focusing on the real issues that need attention in these schools.
And I say this often, one thing with politicians, and this is politicians in general, not either side of the aisle, but in general, the hard work doesn't always get you votes, and that's what we're after now, or that's what's going on now, is wanting to whitewash over the hard work that they don't want to do. It's difficult to raise test scores. It's difficult to educate kids. It's difficult to have good, citizens, good human beings coming out of this broken school system that we have. That's hard. They don't want to do that. So then they focus on other things like, acceptable books and things like that, not even caring that a student died in the school. It is unreal to me. And like I say, we go deeper and deeper into this hole, and it's supported up and down the platform. I mean, these people are endorsed by Don Beyer. These people are endorsed by Jerry Connolly.
Yep.
These are the guys at the top that can make a real change in our local communities by, kind of putting a little bit of pressure on these people to do what's right and to do the hard work and to do their jobs properly. But instead, they're off doing the same things that these guys are, just undermining the foundation of traditional society in Fairfax County.
And I just love also, Steve, this whole banned book narrative is a lie. These books are not banned. I love the sort of optics of this, that he shows up with these so-called banned. How'd you get these banned books? How'd you even get them if they're banned? But this is a lie. And schools should remove pornography from school libraries. And that's exactly what parents are asking them to do. They're not demanding that it be taken out of Barnes & Noble and Amazon and even the public library, but they're asking that they not be put in school libraries. Isn't this sort of an effort by Carl Frisch to sort of promote this lie that books are being banned?
And that is exactly the case. The thing that we fight for as a Fairfax Republican is the age appropriateness of material, which used to be important to everybody. I mean, I remember growing up, they had the back section. If you wanted something that was adults only, you had to go to a special spot to get it. It was not in public libraries where children could have access to it. There are books that are not appropriate for kindergartners that may be more appropriate for a high schooler. And we keep fighting to get the view to be put back on the age appropriateness of materials, not in trying just to ban things outright. And it is a lie. And the left is much better, I think, at perpetuating this propaganda than the right is, because of the fact that they control the media, that they can put these things out day after day after day, that you tell a lie often enough and it,
Sure.
quote, becomes the truth.
Yep.
That's what we're fighting against, and we have to keep fighting. We have to keep showing up at these school board meetings. We have to keep making a point of this. We have to be involved in 2024 to go to the top and take these guys out in the sense of their political office, the Don Byers and Jerry Connollys of the world, because they could stop this, and they choose not to because it doesn't gain them votes to do the hard work. And that's what we need them to do, is to do the hard work in Northern Virginia.
Well, Steve, I will have to leave it there. Got to have you back because I want to talk about Carl Fritz's record at some point in time. The fact that he's been promoted now to vice chair and school board chair. But we'll get you back for that. Best of luck to you, sir.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for having me on today.
That was Steve Knotts. He's the Fairfax County GOP chairman. We have more to come here on WMAL's. So, Julie, I know you appreciated me tweeting this out. This is the story out of, actually, I don't even know where it's out of. It's on the New York Post. Gen Z stuffers from 86% of Gen Z adults have menu anxiety when dining in restaurants, meaning that they have a bit of anxiousness when they're trying to figure out what to order on a menu. Julie's just shaking her head here.
Grow up. I can't deal with this. The anxiety, the depression, the mental anguish of Gen Z. I mean, I'm just a little tired of it. I'm also worried because this is the generation that will take care of us in our old age, Andrew. So, yeah. Little too much
all
for
of these
me.
things come together. We've had this other story about Gen Zers who believe that Jews are oppressors, and I know that's two very different stories. But again, right, if you're spending, this is the problem. We are going to diagnose the problem right here and now, Julie Gunlock. When you are taught to not look at the world in a critical manner, when you're not taught to question things, when you're not taught to think independently, when you're put in a situation when you have a lot of choices, it leads to this anxiety. It's all the same thing, right? It gets down to the free-range kid issue.
Well, and also I guess when you're at a restaurant, you have to like sort of analyze the menu, figure out what you want, think about what you feel like, make a critical choice, and we know that critical thinking might not be their strong. Now, listen, I don't want to. I want to. We have to put the gap. Not all Gen Zers are like this, okay? But
no, but 80% of them are apparently.
Well,
this is, yes, not all Gen Zers are, right? There are 14% of them who aren't this way. But 86% of them apparently are. Hey, real quick, let's just hear JFK's grandson talking about this. Let's go ahead, Michael, and hear that.
Read the menu. We have to read something in order to get the food first. You have to read to get your food.
Wait, what? Oh, my God. It's right. I mean, this is, again, a generation that has been coddled by their parents. Right. I mean, listen, you know something, Julie? We ought to try to get Lenore Skenazy on to talk. I mean, we know what Lenore would say, but, it's...
Yes.
Yes. But it's kids.
These were mollycoddled kids. These were kids that were wrapped in cotton gauze and obviously not allowed to walk to the park by themselves. And I will say though, there's another generation that deserves a little criticism here. It's Gen X who raised these children. What is wrong? Because Gen X, I'm thrilled to be a member of Gen X because we were sort of the latchkey kids. We were ignored. We had to kind of tough it out ourselves. What have we done? We might have been the coolest generation, but we were terrible parents to raise children like this.
But here's the thing, right? And I think about my own situations where I had started to raise kids, and my kids can be very adventurous eaters. They're kids. They're now, one's in their 20s, the other one's, in their late teens. But it's interesting because there are times when I've seen this menu anxiety on my own kids, again, who are adventurous eaters. We've worked very hard at this. I don't know what I'm. Listen, again, I'm a Gen Xer, Julie, so I'm going to blame everybody else for my own failings. I blame the schools.
This goes way beyond order regret. Some of these, according to this article, some of these young adults, 34%, reported feeling so anxious that they wind up asking other people at the table to speak to the waiters on their behalf. I mean, what?
Is that a stranger danger? Is that a stranger danger kind of thing? You think they're just so someone's wait.
Wild.
Someone's coming up to you and offering you food. Don't talk to them. Don't talk to them.
This is what the person who did this poll. While most people look forward to dining out during the holiday season, we know, as our research shows, it can be stressful for some. Everybody needs to calm down.
All right. By the way, best name of the day is the guy who was talking to the Washington Post about this. While most people look forward to dining out, we know, as our research shows, it can be stressful. The guy's name is Dean Challenger. He clearly needs to join, one of these academic freedom organizations to be, our head of VP of Development, Dean Challenger, here at Fire. It really is. We are an unserious people. It's 7:52 here on O'Connor and Company.